Okay, I am going to introduce myself just briefly. I talked to Carlos a little bit ago. I'm Pat Suplee, and I'm the director of Energizing Young Voters. Energizing Young Voters is an organization that's an outgrowth of the League of Women Voters. Whoops, I got two people coming in at the same time, except I've lost them. Let me see, participants. I only see 4 people, although it says we have 6 here. Anybody a tech wizard? I got it. I got it. Hi, now I can see you all.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, Ken?
Okay, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you. I've already hit the record button, so I hope that's okay with those of you who just jumped in. Any problem? Okay. All right.
No?
I was introducing myself to the people that I didn't know before, and got to the point where I was talking just quickly about Energizing Young Voters, which is an outgrowth of the League of Women Voters. And we are dedicated specifically to young people who are new voters, 18 to 29-year-olds, and also to young people who are soon to be voters. So we work with middle school and high school students as well, even though they're not yet 17 and ready to vote. We've gotten involved with all of the locations for the Smithsonian exhibition because the title of the exhibition really reflects exactly the lessons that we teach, Voices and Votes, Democracy in America. So you've been invited to, and you've volunteered to participate in that exhibition. And we've already gone through it once with Mercer County College. So I think we can offer you some insights into what it's going to be like, and you can ask questions, and then we will get together, as long as you're interested in continuing to do it, we'll get together after the exhibit is set up, but before it's open to the public, so that you can actually walk through it and you'll have a chance to practice with somebody else. Talking about the exhibit as you would if you were guiding a group through it. So that's basically what we're going to do tonight. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. And I'll tell you that this is going to be informal. So any questions that you have, anything that might come to mind, you can just talk out for me. The first thing I want to do is give you the video introduction. This was a video that was put together in Maryland when the exhibit was in Maryland. And it's just a quick overview. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I have got to set up the sound. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to hear.
Hello, my name is Robbie Davis. I'm a project director with the Smithsonian's Museum on Main Street program, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here in Cumberland today to introduce you all to the wonderful Voices and Votes, Democracy in America exhibition, which has been brought to the Allegheny Museum in cooperation with Maryland Humanities. Museum on Main Street is a special partnership between the Smithsonian and state partners like state humanities councils to bring traveling exhibitions to communities all over the country that are generally smaller in population or are in areas where they're a little bit more isolated. And this gives an opportunity for people everywhere to have a chance to take in Smithsonian scholarship and resources. So we are pleased to be able to deliver this service through our state partners, and it's always a delight to see what our local communities come up with. This is always meant to be a local history and culture opportunity for our host organizations, and they always deliver. And it's impressive to see the exhibitions that they create, the programs they do, and the meaningful contributions they make to their own communities. One of my favorite sections in Voices and Votes looks at kind of the history of campaigning in the United States. And of course, that's something that we're all familiar with. We see great commercials, running on our television screens, and we hear them on the radio every election season. And here in the exhibition, we show you some of the most interesting and unique commercials from televised campaigns over the past 75 years or so. But here in the exhibition, you have a chance to see even more. All of these great examples of campaign posters, and many of these are from contemporary elections, and this wonderful object case here that's got buttons and brochures and bumper stickers and record even, all of those fun things, that memorabilia that we all collect from our favorite candidates and from things that really remind us of our own personal history. We all have a personal experience within each of these campaigns based on what we wanted to do and who we voted for, and it's wonderful to have an opportunity to kind of look back here and think about what those times meant to you. One of the things I love in this exhibition is talking about how people who become naturalized citizens of the United States go through the process of doing an examination as part of that naturalization process. And we all think, okay, I wonder what those questions are really like. Well, we have a sample of some of them here in the exhibition. And they're hard. We think we know them, but the reality is that sometimes you have to stop for a second and really think about it. But I love here, name one U.S. territory. I always go for Guam, but we also have America Samoa and the Northern Marianas Islands, and it's great to know that these are questions that all Americans should know, regardless of their citizenship status. And it's a great opportunity to come in here and be introduced to those questions. One of the most exciting parts of the Museum on Main Street program, in addition to our exhibitions, we also have a great series of programs that reinforce this local history opportunity for our host organizations and our state partners. One of those projects is called Stories from Main Street. Stories from Main Street started 10 years ago in 2011 to focus attention on rural communities across the country and to get stories from those communities into a Smithsonian collection. Over the years, this has developed. We've heard from thousands of people now, and it is always exciting to see that material come in and give the Smithsonian an opportunity to elevate it, to amplify it, use it in our exhibitions, use it in programs like this, which accompanies Voices and Votes. This is a computer kiosk that features stories from people in several states talking about their own experiences with American democracy, the first time they voted, the issues and community involvement opportunities that really get them excited and get them going and getting involved locally. So it's wonderful to have a chance to hear from people all over the place and see just how different our perspectives are, and to really introduce that full diversity into the exhibition itself. We're grateful to Maryland Humanities and the Allegheny Museum for inviting us in and having us here over the next several weeks. It's a really exciting time to focus not only on our nation's democratic process, but also on what it means to people living here in Cumberland and throughout Western Maryland.
Okay, so that's a pretty quick overview, but does it raise any questions in your mind before we go on? Okay. Ken, I have a question for you. How expansive is the space that the exhibit is going to be set up in? Is it going to be as tight as it was at Rowan?
Oh, probably in the ballpark. The exhibit was set up in Rowan in a very large atrium, and so it wasn't but it was not as spread out as what we just saw on the video. But because it is in a much smaller room, I've actually planned out where at least I expect everything to go, not having access to it yet, and there will be, so it'll feel a little bit more like the Burlington.
Okay.
Space between the things, but it will be spread out over one main room with two antechambers off to the side, and we're going to be walking around counterclockwise in the exhibit.
Okay, that's helpful to know. I have a, if I can find where I put it. I have a floor plan for the people who are going to be the docents. So this is what Ken is talking about. He has had the pieces of the exhibit are set up into different sections. This is the entrance down at the bottom. And you saw those panels, and you walk through there, and the first exhibit that you see, which is this curved one, talks about the fact that right from the beginning of our country, that essentially what we were doing in the Revolutionary War was fighting for the right to vote. And it goes through that history and explains why and how. And then from there, you move on to different sections. So in Mercer County, this is how close it was. I mean, in Burlington County, this is how close it was. And it felt a little bit cramped. It was not so bad when people went in individually, but when we had larger groups, it got a little bit crowded. So that's one of the things that you have to keep in mind. If you're talking to a group that's going through, they can't all be in the same space at the same time. So we're going to have to figure out together the best way to handle groups when they come in. And I know that there are a couple that are scheduled, so we can talk about those later. When you go through singly, as you can see, there's plenty of space. And these are just some of the things, some of the other pictures. These were classes that came through with assignments.
I will say that Burlington found by trial and error that limiting the group size for at least those moving as a group into somewhere around 8 people was the max.
That's true, right? So, okay. So, and you said, I think that there's going to be a special section that's going to highlight Trenton's role in the founding of the country. Am I correct?
Right. Trenton focused, but Mercer County and New Jersey centric. And yes, there'll be a table with basically a 6-foot by 5-foot set of displays on an A side and with 2 faces, A and B, with blown up photos and a multimedia presentation, sort of like what we saw there, but with one of our college's computers serving as a multimedia. And we'll probably also have a, what do you call it? The laminate, a notebook with laminate, with things inside sleeves to turn to a flip book. There you go.
Book, right. Like there are a couple of those in the exhibit. In the exhibit itself, there are also several media pieces. And when the exhibit was close together, we found that was sometimes distracting because you could hear 2 or 3 of them sometimes at the same time. So as docents, and I'll show you this when we're together, there are ways that you can raise and lower the volume on those individual things. So if you're taking a group through, you can move it up at the point that you want them to hear what's on the screen, and then lower the volume again and move on to the next thing. Otherwise, you're hearing, like 3 or 4 things at the same time, and it gets really distracting. In addition to the table that Ken is talking about, Ken, is there room for a table for voter registration? One table like the, 3x5 table that we had down at Rowan?
Yeah, at the very least, we're going to have it outside in the hallway, and we just need to see how things actually work, whether it's going to be inside the gallery itself.
Okay, so that's, yes, Deborah?
The voter registration will be done before it starts. The voter registration deadline for the primary is the 17th. So we have to be careful on that to make sure that they understand that they're registering for the general election.
general.
General election, right.
Okay.
Right. And I don't see any problem with that. I think
Yeah.
it gives us an opportunity to talk about both, actually.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And we can also, there will be students coming through, I'm pretty sure, who have not registered to vote because they did not get their driver's license. So we
Mhm.
can always ask them if they're 17, have they registered, or do they
Mhm.
have their driver's
Okay.
license, and move them through that way. So on the table that Energizing Young Voters sets up, what we had in Rowan and what I think worked pretty well were some candy to get everybody over to talk to us. And then voter registration materials, a couple of handouts, one showing all of the lessons that people can bring to community groups or to their classrooms or to their, to the classrooms or to community groups that Energizing Young Voters offers. And you'll see those flyers the day that we're there in person. And the other thing that we have are two posters. Let me see if I can find that without too much trouble. Whoops. I thought you were there, Ken. Did you come in another way? All right, there are two posters. One of these, actually, I think we're only going to have one because the deadline on this was June 15th. But this one has two QR codes on it. And what students or what people can do is use the QR code, and it will give them the opportunity to download a slideshow with all kinds of answers to questions that people ask about voting. We use this with students in schools prior to elections so that they can serve as advocates for anybody else in their community or their household. But it is a very practical tool that I turn to regularly. So if you are sitting at the table, you can just explain to people what it is. You can see down in the blue box here, the different sections that are a part of it. And if you've got it downloaded on your phone, you can just show them those and the kinds of answers to the questions. So that's just one of the other things that will be available to you. Can you keep coming up as needing to be admitted to the room? Is there a reason for that?
I would just disregard that's for some reason it's having a loading problem. So right now I'm in both.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, so here you come again. One of the things that we should talk about tonight is what your availability is going to be for the exhibit. The times that it is most important to have somebody, this is so funny, I can see Ken several times on the screen, I love it. Talk about being distracted, right?
I apologize, Pat.
That's okay. That's a good laugh. What I'd like, the days that it's most important to have people present are those high traffic days when you've got the groups or the receptions scheduled. So you gave me those dates. One of them is graduation day. Another one is Future Voters Day, which is June 4th. A tribute to John Watson, which is June 17th. And then there may be other receptions too. So those dates are the first ones that I'd like to try to get nailed down. A question for you. Do you, in some cases, people sign up for like, I'll take half a day on Monday every week. Other times people will say, I can give you Tuesday, the 4th of June, and I can give you whatever it is, June 20th, and give you that. What is your What are you feeling as if you can offer in terms of time? Rita, what were you thinking?
I'm thinking I could give like 1 day a week during the time the exhibit is there. The middle of the week works a little bit better for me, but I can work around that too. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
When you say middle of the week, you mean like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, right?
I didn't know.
I can do a weekend if I have to, but right now that's those days, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Each week it's open would work best for me.
Okay, good. Deborah, how about you?
I don't know. What day is graduation day?
The 20th.
Of what?
May.
Okay.
We
So-
open on the 18th, but the 20th is commencement.
I'm relatively available in May. Well, sort of.
Are there
Um,
dates that don't work for you in May? Is that easier to tell us?
Yeah, the 19th, the 25th, and the 27th don't work in May.
Okay,
And then how late is it open in June? Is it open the whole month?
To June 20th.
I may not be available. I'm not sure of my timing. That last week, starting at the 18th, 19th, 20th. That's iffy for me.
okay.
On the 8th, I'm out all day. And I'm up for being a poll worker the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th, but I don't know whether or not that will happen.
Okay.
Oh, and the 1st is also out. So maybe it was easier to go the other way of what days I'm available. But they're scattered.
Deborah, how was Texas?
Texas was terrific.
Well,
Texas was home.
what will happen is I'll take what you say is your availability and I'll put it into a very tentative schedule. And I'm going to say very tentative because I learned the last time that people said, oh, I'm available, 5 days a week for the first 2 weeks. And I thought that meant that they were willing to work 5 days a week for the first 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And that's not what they meant.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm making the point that it's very tentative. What I put out is to get feedback from you to
Right.
be sure that this is going to work for you. And we always made it work. So don't fret if it looks like you're going to have to say, oh, but I can't do this. Carlos, how about you?
Pat, did you share the hours that the galleries is expected to be open for the exhibit?
I didn't, but it's from 10 to 4 on Tuesday through Friday.
Right.
And then 9 to 2 on Saturdays, right?
Right.
Okay.
With the reception in the evenings, the VIP reception is 5 to 7. And the 2 other receptions in the evening that are in the last full week of June, the show is open, will be 6 to 8.
Okay.
And the Young Voters is on a Saturday, with no special hours.
All right. So it's just the whole time that Saturday is
Right.
open at 10 to 2. Okay, good. Carlos, how about you? Go ahead.
What day is the VIP reception supposed to be?
That's the 24th from
24th.
5 to 7.
Okay, so I can definitely be there the 24th from 5 to 7. I'll block that in my schedule.
Okay.
That's June 24th?
May.
May.
Okay.
That's essentially our grand opening, but because of commencement, it's pushed back into the next week.
Okay.
So that's our press event with VIP people and people at the podium taking turns and stuff.
Yes. That's serendipitous because I don't work that day, but my availability is a little strained because I don't know what my summer semester schedule is yet.
Okay.
And I have work Tuesdays and Fridays, and then the weekends I'm usually in Philadelphia. So but I can definitely offer up days like Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesdays I think should be good.
I thought you said Tuesdays and Fridays were not good.
Oh, no, Thursdays and Fridays.
Thursdays and Fridays, okay. All right, so Monday, the 24th, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are generally good, and not Thursdays and Fridays and not weekends.
Mm.
Okay, good. Wendy, how about you? Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, I'm not, I'm not local. I do everything remotely.
Okay,
So I can't really commit to anything right now.
that's okay. That's good to know. All right, so as I said, what I'll do is I'll create a schedule and send it out to you. And please remember, it's very preliminary. You need to give me feedback and then we'll readjust. And what I'm going to look to do first is to fill people in for those special event days. And then we'll see what we can fill in other times. And I will be there sometimes too, but I also have some limited availability. So we'll just do the best that we can. And then Ken, as we start, if you see that there's a need for some, like that it's always busy from noon to 4 on days or something like that, then you can let us know and we'll start to, we'll do some more finagling with the schedule. So even once it's set, and even, when we think we know everything, during the course of the 5 weeks down in Rowan, stuff came up. Somebody got sick, somebody had to take their mother to someplace, and we just adjusted. So it's not, and I did learn that in some places there are no docents at all. So anything that we can do to offer people a more comfortable situation is good.
Just a quick question. Who's expected
Sure.
to be in attendance for the VIP exhibit?
Only the lesser deities of the United States.
That's quite a basketball.
I guess the biggest highlighter that we definitely have confirmed at this point is former Governor Whitman.
Oh, cool.
We're still waiting for a couple other high-profile people, but beyond that, there will be an assortment of mayors and county commissioners and state assembly people, along with our board of trustees and a few people from our administration building, et cetera. So,
Okay, gotcha.
And somebody from the Humanities Council, I'm sure.
and of course, yes, and someone from the Humanities Council. There'll be a few more people, like there'll be a couple people from the Citizens Campaign. And so there's, the rest of them, but in terms of the exact numbers, it's not all nailed down, which is fine because not everyone will show up anyway. So, but we will have a little program to start off with, somewhere around 5:30 probably, which I think is pretty much kind of how like Burlington handled theirs when they turned on the mic. And
Is Bonnie Watson-Coleman going to be there? Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman?
she's going to be there on June 17th.
Gotcha.
That there's a reception that is centering the work of her father as a state assemblyman and working in the Trenton area for civil rights and legislation. And she has provided a number of pieces of memorabilia along with the Keene University John Watson Library. They actually have kind of a special portion of his stuff being provided for that. So that'll be on the Friday, the 17th, where she will be our, let's say, our headliner as we focus on her father's legacy.
Okay, gotcha.
Good. Any other questions to date or to this moment?
I have none.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Rita. Yeah.
Just real quick, as we're talking about docents, are we supposed to be pretty involved and knowledgeable of the
I didn't pay her to say that. That's That's a great lead in to what I was going to say next.
What country is this?
Hello?
Like, what country is this?
Yeah, because like I said, when I think docent, I think this is someone who has, at least some idea of what they're talking about. And if I'm going to do that, I too, even though I'm a teacher and I could blab on for hours about something, I'd like to know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Okay.
You will have plenty of opportunity. Do you have a
Okay.
copy of the, do you have a copy of the docent handbook there, Ken? So yeah, I was going to say, I thought I saw him pull it up. There is a handbook that takes you through each one of the sections that are in the exhibit.
Okay.
And it offers you like thought-provoking questions that you can ask before people go into a particular section. It has topics for discussion, and there's a third thing too. I can't remember right offhand, but at any rate, I have my copy, and when I did it, I made notes for myself as I was going through. And the one thing I should tell you ahead of time is that when you do this, or when you're there the first day, it's going to feel a little awkward because you're going to be looking back and forth at the book, as you get used to it. But the more you're there and the more you look at the exhibit yourself, so that even if there are not people going through it, I would recommend that you go through it, because I learned a ton. And I'm sure that when I come to your site as well, I'm going to continue to learn. There are, in each one of the sections, there are activities of some sort. Sometimes, as I mentioned, that's a visual thing, or, a TV screen or whatever. Some of them are actual artifacts. Like there is a lantern that was used in the campaign parades for Abraham Lincoln, and one of his mock wooden hatchets, because he was supposed to be, chopping wood and that sort of thing. But they're the actual artifacts, and they're there in your exhibit space. There are signs that were actual signs from different demonstrations that have been that took place down in Washington, D.C., including one, many of them are fascinating, but there's one from the Women's March, which I took part in. And it was just kind of awesome to see it there as a part of a museum exhibit. I'm trying to think of some of the other things. At any rate, I know there are flip books like what Ken was talking about. And one of the flip books is in the first section on the history. And I usually asked people, do you know what the first state was to allow women to vote? And it's, kind of an interesting question. And I don't know if you know the answer to it, but it was New Jersey. And it was back in the Revolutionary era.
Mhm.
And it was,
And then they ruled us out.
and then they took the right away from us. So things like that are things that I learned as I was going through the exhibit. So when you get intrigued yourself with a particular section of it, come up with a question and just make people look at that section. And I would say also, when you go in, make sure you look at the top, because there are banners across the top of each one of the pieces. Make sure that you look at the bottom. Don't just stay at eye level, because there is stuff everywhere. So you'll find as you go through it that you will be giving a slightly different guide. You'll be guiding people slightly differently than the next person will, because your personal interests should help to provoke whatever it is that you want to talk to people about.
And one more question then, Pat.
Yeah.
Can we go through the exhibit ourselves or with somebody else before it actually opens to the public?
I swear, I did not pay her.
Oh, yeah. But that bottle of wine was really good. So.
All right. Yes. Before the exhibit opens, we will go through the night before. Am I correct, Ken?
Yes.
Yes. We'll meet there, and you'll have an opportunity to walk through it. You'll get your own docent handbook. And then what we did that worked quite well at Rowan was each one of us took one of the sections of the exhibit to study a little more closely for about 20 minutes. And then after that 20 minutes was over, we took each other through the section. So we had a chance to say it as well as to just know it. And that little bit of extra practice made people far more comfortable to do it the first time with company coming. So as long as that sounds like a good deal to you, that's what we will.
It would be a better deal if we could get the docent handbook earlier.
You can, it's online.
Oh, good, fine.
Okay, and I'll send you the link to that, so you can see.
Thank
the
you.
whole
Yeah,
thing.
that would be.
Right, I was going to
better.
suggest that,
Yeah.
but we'll have one of these for you from when you get there.
Okay.
Right.
Is there a dress code for docents?
Oh, you know, that's a good question too, and I didn't pay him either. We dressed nicely, but not fancy. So like sometimes people wore jeans and just a nice shirt. Sometimes people got a little bit fancier, but we also, the kids at the first site decided that they wanted to have something to distinguish them from everybody else, so that if classes were brought through, you knew who was the docent and who was the student, kind of thing. So we made sashes, and you can stick them over your head. They've got a pocket for your cell phone. They've got a pocket for your keys, so you don't have to, lug a whole bunch of stuff around with you. And you can either wear them over your shoulder and tied, or you can just stick it around your neck. But it's small, it's not obtrusive, but it does distinguish you. So it's, I have plenty of them. They're all washed. They'll be given back at the end, and then they go on to the next school, kind of thing. So does that work for all of you?
Yes.
Good.
Toward the better dressed of the student apparel spectrum, Carlos, not the bottom end of the student apparel.
I guess that's an inside joke. I'm sure that
Well,
I have seen some of the students walking through their own campus, and yeah, I would not be comfortable if they came to be a docent that way, but most everybody was just
pajamas and other things and stuff. Yeah.
That
Well,
was, when I was in college, you still had to get dressed for Sunday dinner. Okay. Every
Get
day.
dressed, period.
I'm the
No, I mean dressed up. You dressed up like Sunday.
dressed up.
Right.
Over my career, I know that Deborah's point is a good one too, because not everyone is always fully dressed as a
Yeah,
student.
that is a good point.
Well, I think COVID has made that very easy to do. You get dressed when you're up. So just some basic do's and don'ts. Try not to read directly from the handbook. Try to become familiar with it enough ahead of time so that you can have notes, but you're actually talking to the people rather than talking to the book. And when we do it together, it will probably be more book looking than it will be when you're actually talking to people, but that's why we do the practice run. And, be casual, use hand gestures, be expressive when you're doing it.
And if you need to check the book, just go ahead and hang on a second. Oh, there we go. Just no big deal.
Yeah, right. But be interactive, I guess is the word, and pleasant and sociable and that sort of thing. And I found for myself that it worked really well to be almost like a storyteller, to slow down sometimes and to get quiet, and then to be enthusiastic about something, because it tended to keep people intrigued and interested in what was coming next. And you have to pay attention to your group too. Like when we had school classes going through, they had very specific things that they were looking for. And so if you can ask what those things are and guide them to the sections that are going to give them the answers, not give them the answers yourself, it's really helpful. If you're working with a group that has a number of young children, then you're going to want to try to adjust it so you're talking to the adults as well as the little kids, and just kind of judge your questions accordingly.
And don't stress over control so much. I mean,
Yes.
some people are gonna walk off and you just gotta manage.
Good.
Don't stress it.
How are we like collecting groups?
What do you mean collecting them?
So I guess my question is, if people are people free to just meander around the exhibit, or
Mhm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. What I found, unless there were assigned groups, what I found was that sometimes people would come individually and sometimes they would come maybe 1 or 2 people at a time. So I would generally, my spiel at the beginning was, what does democracy really mean to you? And I'm not talking about the definition. I'm talking about, why is it important that we live in a democracy? And then say, if you'd like somebody, you know, if you'd like us to take you through, we're happy to do that. If you'd like to go through yourself and then ask some questions, we're happy to do that. Whatever's going to work, but kind of get them in a frame of mind for what the exhibit has to offer. I found myself frustrated sometimes when people just kind of zipped right through, because I thought, oh my gosh, they're missing the richness of it, you know. But then I thought, well, at least they got something, you know, they were there, they looked at it, they got what was important to them at the time. So I would say I learned not to feel as if I was a failure if they didn't look at it the way I thought they should. The one question that came up before the last session that we never needed to deal with, fortunately, was, what do you do if you get somebody whose kid is being absolutely obnoxious, you know? And I think you do what you would do with in any situation. I would probably try to speak to the parent tactfully and say, if we're going, you know, people would like to be able to enjoy the exhibit. Would you mind taking your child until they can come back and join the exhibit in a way that's going to let everybody else hear it? If it's an adult, I don't know what I would do. Probably something similar. But like I said, it never became an issue at Rowan, but the guide does suggest that you have a plan in mind for yourself about what you will do should somebody be creating a disruption.
How can I help you fix this kind of thing? How can I help you make this better? You know, it's the kind of question you want to ask, especially to a parent. All right. How can I help you here? You know, what can we do so that other people can enjoy it the way you want to?
That's
Go
good.
to the candy table.
What'd you say, Wendy? I'm sorry.
Said go to the candy table.
Exactly.
Ah, there you go. It better be
Yeah.
close.
Keep those Hershey's
Yeah.
Kisses in your pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've got 2 pockets in your sash, so stick some ammunition in the pockets.
Yeah, lollipops are the best.
Yeah, but like I said, it never happened, but I think it is good to have it in mind and to have yourself somewhat prepared to be able to handle a situation that might be sticky. And then
Right,
the
and
last,
I will throw out too is that during normal opening hours, security will only be coming by on a periodic schedule. Just so you know that the college security will be doing that. At the specific events, the higher profile ones, they will have somebody there if it's something like a worst case scenario. And I'll make sure that everyone has the number to call security
oh, that's good.
that evening too. Again, obviously don't expect it to happen, but be prepared for the worst is better.
Yeah.
And that also applies to healthcare. Will security be able to help if there's somebody who falls over or something?
The college has protocols for that. I haven't specifically, to be honest, talked to them about seeing if they have an EMT on campus or something like that, but they do have regular protocols to handle that, and some of their team is trained.
Okay.
So Ken will, what if the docent needs to use a restroom? So it has to leave the exhibit. Is there going to be somebody else there as well?
Well, I think I didn't mention yet that there are some people who have signed up merely to be greeters. And so there may be that at least some of the time we will have people who will simply be present, maybe to, invite people to leave their comments or, reactions to the exhibit afterwards, and to maybe, maintain a head count or something like that. But they decided they didn't want to be docents, but they did want to actually contribute. And so we call them greeters, and so there'll be that there. And I expect someone like me or someone else will also be there as backup for much of the time, but certainly not all the time. And so we'll try to manage it so that there's some ready backup in any case.
Okay. Right, and then the one thing that I skipped over that I should have said a little bit earlier, when you're asking people questions, don't be afraid to wait a while. 10 seconds is considered normal wait time, but it seems like it's interminable when you're waiting for somebody to respond. But it takes that long for the brain to process a question sometimes and then to come up with an answer. So just try to remember the 10 seconds and count to yourself and give them the opportunity. When you can, you're shaking your head. What?
No, exactly. That's actually one of the secrets to effective teaching and being a teacher and a professor, is actually being comfortable with silence.
Yep. And enjoying it.
Yep.
Okay,
Related to that, I am hard of hearing. I wear hearing aids, but if there is a strong accent, I'm worse yet, because I can't process both the accent and the sound. And I don't know if that makes a difference to when you might assign me, but you should be aware that that's true.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't know how plannable that is, but I'm sure you're used to adapting.
Well, I mean, for instance, if there's a group of primarily Hispanic kids coming in, I don't speak Spanish,
probably speak
and I
English
don't hear the
better than the
accent. I don't
American, so-called
hear it properly.
other kids, but probably more their parents or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
If there are
what you-
there's a large group of Hispanic students, I could probably assist.
okay, that's great. So,
And I get my daughter on the phone who teaches Spanish in Georgia and Arizona. So.
okay, the one time that we had people with multiple languages was when one of the classes that teaches new citizens came through.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked pretty well because we split them up into smaller groups so that there wasn't a lot of ambient noise around and it was easier to focus. And I will tell you that they had just started that class and they knew the answers to every single one of those questions that was in the video.
Did. That's why they're here. And
So-
not there.
So study up. When you get there, make sure you read the questions yourself and know the answers to
Try
them.
not to act surprised when they know more than you do.
Right. Right. But they also, I think, asked some of the most perceptive questions in the parts of the exhibit that dealt with citizenship and the melting pot theory and some of the other things. It was really, really, what's the word I'm looking for? It really impressed me as a person. It made me think about what I had been taught as a kid and what I had not examined since that point, and what I need to start thinking about in terms of the world today. So you will get a lot from doing this, I think, as well as giving something to it. So I hope
Think
you
of it as
really
a ragu rather than a melting pot. You gotta
like
maintain
that.
those different flavors.
I like that, but they
I
I
do have
usually
a
use
section on
stew,
it,
which is
Yeah.
better than today's salad bar. Some people are talking about the salad bar, but I think the stew is better. That the carrot is still a carrot, but it's got potato and peas on it, so to speak. So we do affect each other, but we don't lose ourselves in it, like the melting pot.
Right, right. So, all right. So if there are no other questions, then we can set the date to meet together. And the date is next Thursday. Am I correct?
And if you have any topical questions, I'm sure PAC is a resource for that, and I am too, even really any of the tough sort of like historical or political philosophy questions. Okay, because this is actually kind of my specialty.
Next Thursday is the 19th, so you don't need any of us there.
I'm sorry, it's not next Thursday. It's Tuesday, the 17th
Okay,
And what time?
at 7 o'clock. And it will probably run, I'm going to say an hour, hour and 15 minutes, something like that.
And I know Carlos and Wendy are Rita or Deborah, are you, or Pat, are you familiar with the campus?
I'm not.
I am
I've been
not,
to the technical school, but not to the campus itself.
Okay, if you look at the map that's available on the website, it is on the second floor of the communications building, overlooking the big quad in between most of the buildings, just to orient yourself. And then you can park on either side of that building. And so I don't want to over describe it, but when you see the map and you see the communications building, it's on the second floor of that. There are elevators, not right there, but not too far away from there, in the middle of the LA building and even the student center main entrance area, should those be needed or chosen.
And the parking is obvious. It's not blocked off and we ignore the blocking off.
No, but we will make sure that some of the things that maybe are sometimes gated off or something like that, that might be confusing, that nobody will get trapped or anything like that, because
Okay.
cool.
Okay. Let's see, Rita said, is it designed in a chronological order? The historical part is that first section, but then there's a section on actual, well, the voting rights is chronological, but then there's a section on citizenship. There's a section on campaigns. There's a section on first time voting, experiences like that. So it is not all chronological. It's more
Okay, thank you.
topical.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that the pieces of history that Pat was referring to typically are pretty well protected on the exhibit
Yes.
itself, like in glass shadow boxes or something like that. Now, the local things, I'm not sure exactly how they'll be. And then on that evening of the 17th, we'll have developed at that point something like a little bit of a guide to deal with the local site. And some of the artifacts might not be overly secured. And so we'll just, we're going to try to play it by ear. The more fragile ones, we're probably going to do something, try to do what we can with them. And other ones, we're not going to worry about so much. But in terms of people who want to touch things,
Mhm.
like for instance, one of the things that they will be able to touch there is an old end of the 19th century ballot box with a literal crank handle,
Mhm.
which is okay for them to crank. Like, we like that. That was a tactile addition there. So some of the things that we welcome the touching, and some of the other ones we won't. And so we'll be sure to actually give you guidance on that
Okay.
once we actually have all that out.
Thank you. Good.
Good. Okay, then I will, I'm going to wait until this recording processes, and then I will send you the link to that and the link to the docent guide. And if you've got any questions, you can ask Ken, or you can email me at energizingyoungvoters@gmail.com, and I'll get right back to you. If you want to take a look at our website, it's energizingyoungvoters.com. So.
And we do have a website, we do have a page for
That's
this
right.
exhibit on the Mercer page, off the Civics Initiative page.
I
So,
saw that.
Great.
so
Okay,
and
I can add
including
that link.
the student toolkit that Pat referred to earlier, we also have a link to that too on there. So that's
Yes, thank you
an
for that,
ongoing
Ken.
process.
Good, I appreciated that. So, okay. Anything else, folks, or shall we say goodnight?
I will
Okay.
say too, I'm expecting at least 2 other docents to just show up on Tuesday night.
Okay, then will you share the video or the recording with them so they've had a chance to see what we've talked about tonight?
I'll do that.
Thank
And
you.
and I think there's somebody else connected to our league, not actually in it, who is thinking about being a docent. I don't know that. I wouldn't have been surprised to see her on tonight, so.
Okay.
But she's not, so whether that means that she's not going to be a docent or.
Well, will you
Doesn't
check
make
with
it.
her?
I will
Thank you.
get back to you.
Great. Okay, then I will see you on Tuesday night. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, so
Thank
much.
you,
for-
everybody. Good to see
Thank
y'all.
Good night, everyone.
Meeting everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.